But that explains it. By the way, over the next few days, it's going to warm up again. The big hurricane in the Atlantic is turning away from the U.S., but it's still having some impact on the East Coast. And so the weather is still a big story. And as a matter of fact, that's part of the reason why people are fleeing to the United States. It's not just economic. It's not just the government that they feel is oppressive. It's not just a better life for their kids or for themselves or for their wife or whatever. It's because weather, global warming, lots of things, all at the same time, are pushing people away from where they live. Now, I want you to hear what I'm about to say, please. Be patient with me on this one sentence. It's not just the United States. Circumstances are forcing vast numbers of people to leave where they live. Natural disasters, earthquakes, hurricanes, drought, terrible political oppression, wars, all sorts of things. They have to leave where they live. And where do you think they see as the bright, shining hill somewhere else in the world that they could possibly be if they can only get there? It's the United States of America. That's what we've built. What do you think about that? From that standpoint, what do you think about people trying to get here? 713-526-573. Egberto Willies, I want to say good morning to you, my friend. Thanks for giving us a call this morning. Your show this morning dealt in part with the same thing we're talking about. And I want to have your thoughts out of your soul, just out of your heart. What do you think about immigration? Well, you are an immigrant, my friend. Thank God. You've added, like so many people do, you've brought some magic to this country. We need every good person we can get. What's up, buddy?
Well, hey, good morning. How you doing, my dear brother? I am, I'm all in for immigration. I am really sorry to have heard what I heard the mayor say. What he did is he gave the impression like immigration is a nuisance. It's a big problem right now, but I think that he needed to be more, what should I say, more circumspect in the way he spoke about it, because he went ahead and used a few talking points from the right, if you will. And that really sort of upset me.
Yeah, it upset me too. I think most people were kind of astounded. Really, you had to be. I was when I heard that, to see the mayor of New York saying in a huge public forum, immigration is going to destroy New York. Interesting thought. All right, now, the challenge, the opportunity, of course, is for you to give us a call. It's
Recording in progress.
Where does immigration make a difference? You're on the air, my friend. George, go ahead, buddy.
Well, what I was trying to say is immigration is a gift. And I think we've been singing that song for quite a while. God bless America. I mean, it's a solution for Social Security.
Can you hear us, Egberto?
And there's only one power I can think of that can make that happen. And it's been our story for, 250 years?
Now, I'm guessing what you're saying is that the influx of new laborers, younger laborers, things like that, will help save Social Security. Is that basically where you're coming from in saying that?
What I'm saying is people deserve a right to have a life.
Yes.
And provide for their children. I don't begrudge anybody, wherever they're from. Yeah. I mean, why do we ignore the other 9/11? Silly. That's 50 years ago today.
And that's exactly what Amy was talking about a few minutes ago on her show, of course, on Democracy Now!
That was us.
The death of Salvador Allende. Yes. A lot of destruction.
Anyway, that's all I've got to say.
That's it, my friend. And by the way, 20 years of terrible oppression and torture and all sorts of things in Chile. Thanks, George. Thanks for giving us a call, my friend. And good morning. You're on the air this morning. What's on your mind about immigration? You're on UTalk. And you are on. There you go. Hi, Ann.
Can you hear me?
I sure can.
I apologize. Thank you. Thank you so much for this important topic. I will just say, just to make it plain, everyone who basically has set up any kind of policy or any position to make executive decisions, their parents were immigrants coming here. And so, there were indigenous people on the land before they ever got here. So it's kind of like a bait and switch. And so for the mayor of New York, where I'm from, to say what he said and to align his vocabulary, to part his lips in this way is a serious insult. But it's the mindset. It's not just him. He's the distraction. It's the overall position of the way that the subject matter and the people, most importantly, have been handled. In every fiber of this country, there were folks who lent to the economic stability of this country and to this region. So to make this an issue and a problem is it just really speaks to the mindset of the people who are running, who we've entrusted to make decisions. And it's a travesty that it's happening this way, but things have to fall apart before the actual, the congeal, the honest one, the congealing of, in whatever facet, whether it's economic, whether it's social, all of those elements have to come together, but things have to fall apart so that we can see what we need to adjust.
And on a gut level, just forgetting all the logic, you just said a lot of very logical and powerful things, but on a gut level, do you think immigration is our future and we need to welcome it? Do you think immigration needs to be kind of measured and titrated? People need to kind of handle it in some way so that it doesn't threaten. There is ultimately, one guesses, some limit to how many people the U.S. can handle. We ain't there yet. Do you think it's the future? Do you think it's good? Does it instill any fear in you?
It's been good. This is the thing. It's been good. I mean, it's an organic way of life. People migrate all over the world. This is no different, and we're in the position to do great things, but instead we're turning back the clock. So, of course, immigration is awesome. Of course, people coming into this country and lending to the economy, we have enough. It's not like, the universe is unlimited. We have unlimited opportunities. We don't have to continue to cut down trees. There are remedies for that. We don't have to continue to build highways to destroy neighborhoods. There's a remedy for this. We don't have to do these things, but we're doing it. And there are a group of individuals, unfortunately, that don't see it the way that we see it, and we're the majority, not the minority. And where we've given our liberties over to people who don't really care for them. And so, everybody deserves a chance and an opportunity. So from a gut level perspective, of course it is advantageous and an opportunity for us to do better things and great things.
Thank you, Ann. Thanks for getting your voice into it this morning. Last night, as I was preparing today's show, Amanda Johnston and I were talking, and she suddenly, in the middle of looking through some things on the internet, she just looked up and she said, why is our governor doing this? And I kind of looked over, kind of interested, and said, what do you mean? She said, look, he just had a federal court say this is not a legal program. It is against the laws of the United States. It's against all our international treaties. It's incredibly cruel. You got this thing hanging in the middle of the Rio Grande with razor wire, people talking like it's a giant triumph for us that people have to go a mile in either direction, basically, to find some way across the Rio Grande. And of course, they're still going to be met, as always, by people. They're National Guardsmen from the state of Texas, Department of Public Safety, people from Immigration, Nationalization. All these people are going to be meeting them anyway and trying to grab them. And some of them may have to go back immediately. Some may have a chance to file for asylum. What is that thing really doing in the middle? And here's the point. If the court said it's illegal and it's cruel and at least it has to be moved, why didn't he just say, wow, we've made our point. Everybody got it. We made our point. You're right. We're going to pull this thing back and pull it out. We've made our point. Instead, of course, he challenged it. And it has now gone to an appeals court who said, okay, we're going to stay this court order saying it's got to end. The barrier's got to go. We're going to at least stay that court order for a little while until we get a chance as an appeals court to take a look at it. And then I think it's going to wind up the U.S. Supreme Court. Egberto, I hear your voice in the background, my friend. Go ahead.
Yeah. There is, what he is doing, the governor, he is thinking, it's sad because it is saying that he believes the people who follows him have a certain degree of evil, a certain degree of, I'm not saying they are, but I'm saying that he is implying by doing this that there's a certain amount of savagery that he sees in the people who follows him, and that he needs to do that so that he can show how savage he can be. And that is what's so sad about what he's doing. His people aren't really like that, but there is this stuff where you train people a certain way. You take away their sensibilities. You take away the people's humanity. What they're doing is assuming that their followers think so little of the others, think so inhumane about the others.
Other people, that's right. Yeah. Desperate people in most cases. These are not people coming across the border to be drug runners. Oh, great, let's take some fentanyl in the United States. Let's kill some people. That's not what people are coming across for. They're desperately trying to get away from something to a place that was always held up in their mind, partly because we wanted it to be held up in their mind as a place of possibility, of difference, democracy, finally incarnate, a just country. And we're inviting them for all these years, and finally they've tried to get here. Now, that doesn't mean I'm not taking a position. Remember, I'm your radical moderate here. I'm not taking a position. There does not have to be some oversight of immigration. Of course there does. But does it have to be a barrier of razor wire in the middle of the Rio Grande? Just a thought. Is that where we want to go with ourselves? And here was, I think, Amanda's question last night. What you just said a second ago. Why is he being cruel and evil in the way he's doing this? That thing sitting in the middle of the Rio Grande is evil and cruel. It's not.
He believes.
I know that scares the hell of me that's out of the governor of the state of Texas is being that way. And it ought to scare everybody a little bit. Well, we got an election coming up. We'll see where that goes with. Let's go to Barry. Barry, good morning. You're on UTalk. What would you like to say about immigration this morning?
Good morning. Look who's here. First of all, for 9/11.
Yes.
Those brave heroes lost their lives.
3,000 people. Thank you, Barry.
When they were not on that, but 350 firemen, those brave heroes were rushing into a collapsing building.
Yes. Oh,
and I think this song by Daniel Zuzzoli captures this. Have you forgotten when those towers fell that we had neighbors still inside who were going through a living hell?
Thank you, Barry. That needed to be pointed out, buddy. Thank you.
Yeah, we need more commemoration. All right, now, are you making the clear and clean distinction between the ones who stand in line for years, pay their money, and get here legally, and the ones that are coming across the border, breaking into the country illegally?
Yes, of course there's a difference.
No, you making the clear. All you said was, how do you think, what do you feel about immigration?
Well, now let's make something. This is a very good point, Barry. Got me. You're completely right. Those are two different questions. Of course, I'm in favor of legal immigration, and I'm not in favor of illegal immigration. The problem is, where do the limits of humanity and future for this country, where do they cross? I'm not sure that, over the last Thursday, a watchdog group, a U.S. government watchdog group, issued an order, or actually a finding, that the Trump border wall harmed the environment, it harmed indigenous sites, it harmed wildlife, it did a lot of damage, and it didn't make a big difference in the number of people coming across. I'm not so sure about that last thing, by the way.
Maybe because it wasn't completely built either.
Well, yes and no. Look, the Department of Homeland Security, U.S. Customs and Border Protection, the Department of Defense installed about, according to this report, 458 miles of border barrier panels across. By the way, I object sometimes to politicians who say the wall wasn't built. Well, yeah. The point is, actually, by and large, Trump managed to get some things done regarding that wall, whether it's good or bad. 458 miles of border barrier panels across the southwest border from January 2017 through January 2021. 81% of those miles replaced existing barriers, upgraded them, made some differences. The agencies, I'm reading from the report, the agencies installed over 62% of barrier miles on federal lands, including on those managed by the Department of the Interior. Also, it was on federally recognized tribal land, some individual private stakeholders, including people who objected strongly. The guy who may remember that his protected site that he had along the border for nature and things like that was essentially destroyed by all this. The little animals couldn't get all these things. Yeah, but look, here's the question. It did have some impact. And of course, the huge surge of immigration that was expected when Title 42 expired, it didn't happen. So some things are under control. But go ahead, Barry. You're going someplace.
I'm all broken up. I'm all broken up behind these romantic naturalists who want to preserve the cactus plants. I think that
they're worried more about animals trying to cross. We've got to move somewhere because the environment is changing, and if they don't move north, they die out. But keep going.
Okay, the real danger here is that we don't know who these people are. We don't know where they're coming from. Some of them could be members of the drug cartel. You got traffickers coming in.
Yep.
You got teenage sex exploiters.
Yep.
And you got people with criminal records. Now, with no way to vet who's coming in, we don't know who's who. Yet bleeding hard liberals say, no, let's have open borders. No, we cannot have open borders. We cannot have a situation where you don't know who's coming to your country. Now, the mayor of New York is correct. This will destroy New York City. But another million of these unwashed, uncivilized third world degenerates will destroy America.
Now, Barry, let me ask you a question.
Don't want that.
Let me ask you a question. What you're saying, there are plenty of people who agree with you, and that is a position, and it's a reasonable position for people that believe the unlimited flow of immigrants into the country is a bad thing. I'm going to ask you a question. Do you really believe that most Democrats, for that matter, most people who you might call people on the left, believe in an open border? I don't think I hear that. There are very few people who say wide open border, everybody should come in. You don't really hear that. What they're saying is the way we're doing it is not the way to do it. There's a difference.
All right, fine. Then let's ask the question then. You ask the same person, do you believe there should be an end to illegal immigration? If the answer to that question is not yes, then of course, what else do you believe in then? You must believe in open borders.
Saying that we're not gonna have any illegal immigration is not the same thing as saying, whoop, let's have wide open borders. What they're saying is, how do we handle this? Do we discourage illegal immigration? How do we handle it so that people are funneled into a more legal path? And are there some people who are entitled to asylum and coming to this country? So those are different questions, and I think you got to agree there's some gradations along there.
But last thing I want to say is that the Fifth Circuit Court is going to support Governor Babbitt's buoys in the water.
Yep.
I think replace those buoys and put up an electrified fence. Anybody near that fence will receive instantaneous due process. Mr. Biden, put up this wall.
Okay, hold on a second. Barry got it. So wait, let me ask you a question. I just want to make sure we're clear. We're not talking about an electric fence that simply shocks them. You're talking about an electric fence that would immediately execute them.
Due process, yes.
Okay, Barry, I think there's a little irony going on there. All right, my friend. I know that's not where your heart is, but point made. Okay, let's go to Rick. Rick, good morning. You're on UTalk. What do you want to add to this discussion this morning about immigration? You're on the air.
Well, I'll tell you. Yeah, thank you. I often wonder, because I'm a Texan, a fifth generation Texan of Mexican descent. In other words, my relatives, my ancestors were here when Texas was part of Spain.
Yes.
All right. And it bothers me when I hear a gentleman like the previous man said the third world degenerates. Okay.
Yeah, I thought that was a little off.
I would say that.
Go ahead.
First of all, that they would ruin he says they would ruin the country. Well, we have a drug problem because it's internal, because we have a lot of drug users. So I would say that a lot of Americans are destroying this country because of their drug use. You're providing a business for those drug cartels, okay? If we don't have drugs, we don't have that problem, then the drug cartels are going to lose money. Why do you think they're turning towards smuggling people, okay? That's another form of income, all right? And it twists my brain when they say, well, these Mexicans are coming across the border. You ever look at the people that are crossing the border? They're mixed race. They're black. They're Asians. They're Latinos from Central America, from Brazil.
Yes.
They're not all Mexicans, okay? And the majority of people that I work with from Mexico, they love their country and they're just here for a bit legally, or they're trying to make a living and send that money back to their relatives so they can retire comfortably. All right.
And there are a lot of business people, by the way, Rick, who would say, we need these people desperately. We got a lot of jobs we can't fill, and we also need people to keep feeding some money into Social Security. But keep going, Rick. Keep going.
DeSantis proved that. DeSantis put a scare out to the immigrants, and the crops are rotting in Florida, and the housing industry is on a halt.
Yes, they are refusing. You're right. They're the people who normally come into the country legally, or at least as part of set of programs to harvest those crops, are saying en masse as a protest to Florida's laws, we're not going to come. We're just simply not going to come.
Exactly.
We'll see how that works out for Governor DeSantis.
And those people work for less than minimum wage without benefits. Okay, who's going to put the food on the table for this country? All right. There's a lot of Americans that won't do that kind of work.
Now, Rick,
and especially around here in Texas, you drive around and you look at the housing industry and you look at the road construction industry. I swear to God, 80% are Hispanics. Okay, people, and you talk to them, you look at them. I recognize the music. I listen to them. All right, and when I go in an area there's homes being built, I know the music. It's music from Mexico. It's people that are happy working. Okay.
Yep.
Busting their tails, and they're not from here. Okay.
But they will be, and their children and their grandchildren and their great grandchildren will be from here. Yeah.
Yeah. And the people coming across the border that are coming with children, are they criminals? No, they're escaping political prosecution, just like the Pilgrims when they left England and the Netherlands.
Or they're escaping, totally unlivable circumstances caused by climate change or whatever. Yep.
Exactly.
There are reasons for it. They're not just on a joy trip, just for the heck of it. Hey, let's go see how things are in the U.S. Rick, thanks for giving us a call, my friend. All right.
You're welcome.
Let's, for just a second, we're going to stop and remind people what this is all about. This is UTalk, of course, on KPFT 713-526-5738. And when you make that call, you'll get a little recording and hit a 2. Just hit a 2 with your keys. And we'll put you through and we'll get you on the air because it's a morning where we want to hear about your thoughts. Egberto, I invited you this morning, as I so often do, to please come join us on this. You're listening to all these voices. What are you hearing? Big difference between Barry and the gentleman we just heard a second ago.
First of all, thank you so kindly for inviting me on this issue, since I am one of those third world degenerates in this country right now. So I thank you for having a third world degenerate on your show. The truth of the matter is, I am really, I feel a little bit of shame that any American would call somebody from where I'm from, a third world degenerate, because we're not. And what I love from the context that the previous caller just stated is he said, that the people that are bringing drugs into this country, they're nothing more than great capitalists, because what they're doing is they're providing a need that America says it has, which is for drugs. And if we want to get rid of the drug problem, we don't try to do it at the border. We do it at our social fabric in this country. If we want to get rid of a lot of the ills of this country, don't blame illegal stuff coming over on the people here. On the people there. The problem is here. And don't look at the purity of, well, they need to come here the right way, when we as a country effected genocide when we came here. So the savages, neither sides are savages, as the second to previous caller would have you believe. They're no less or more criminals than we were here. The truth of the matter is humans are humans, and they're all most trying to make life better for themselves. And people do it by whatever means are necessary. The Pilgrims did it. The folks who effected genocide did it. The people who effected slavery did it. And the people who are undocumented coming over here are doing it. That is why I am not about open borders, but I am saying whoever had the ability to get here and stay here, hey, tenga buen dia, have fun. I am with you.
Now, I do have a question for you, my friend. I think there are maybe 2 classes of people who oppose immigration, or at least want to put much, much tighter limits on it. One of them is just factually looking at what the U.S. can handle, but an orderly, all the things that have to happen so they can be handled in an orderly way. But some people are just scared, Egberto. They're afraid of changes they see around us, around them. they're scared of a future they don't dominate anymore. I'm one of those people, by the way. I'm an old white guy. So, by the way, my forebears happened to move to Texas in 1797. Been here for a long time. A couple of dumb people from Tennessee who came down just to, hey, we hear some great things about that place. They played some role in the things that happened in this country. But I've been around in this country. I'm talking about Texas. We went through a lot here. And one of them happens to be our current governor. Egberto, I'm part of the game, my friend. So thank you for pointing out that. Let's go to Will for a second. Will, good morning. You're on topic, you say this morning. So what you got on your mind?
Hey, good morning. I think that, there's a sort of a regular debate that happens where both sides will argue about whether or not it's a good thing that we have people coming here. And I mean, on the whole, I think it is a good thing. But there's certainly, some arguments that the other side makes that, that there's some definitely really serious challenges involved with bringing so many people here. I think that what is often missed in this discussion is why these people are having to leave their homes. And the fact is that, what's called foreign policy in our country, and I think really that minimizes just how important it is, has a huge role in the reason why so many people's home countries are not safe places to live, and they're extremely desperate. I think that when you burn someone's house down, the very least you can do is to allow them to stay in your house. And frankly, the bigger, more important issue is that we stop burning people's houses down and we stop treating other countries.
Well, one thing when I hear you say that, I got to interrupt for a second. One thing when I hear you say that is I follow foreign policy. I'm not fully in favor of everything we do. But the truth is, we don't go into these countries and change. There are very selfish, in many cases, evil people who seize power in those countries. And it isn't always because of the U.S., but it certainly means people have got to move. That country becomes unlivable. By the way, notice that Nikki Haley's response to the question of cartels and fentanyl and all those kinds of things is we should send U.S. special forces across the border, American forces into Mexico and destroy these cartels.
Yeah.
I mean, let's forget whether or not we may wind up in a really big objection to that from the government of Mexico. We don't get away with that one. Nikki, probably not such a great idea. But the point is that appeals to a lot of people. Got to do something. The problem is that statistics show that an increasing percentage of fentanyl is actually made by people at laboratories here in the United States. It's an incredibly easy thing to make. It really is. And it's incredibly cheap to make. The ingredients are generally available. Does China in some ways contribute to that? Yeah, but I don't think the government of China says, whoa, let's make fentanyl. Let's kill a lot of Americans. There are people in China who are doing it. And probably the government of China needs to crack down on that more. There are a lot of things here. But Will, that plays out a lot of ways. I mean, the foreign policy U.S. plays into this a whole bunch of directions. Why do you say we caused the problems in Central America and around the world that sent people to us?
I think you have a very long history of U.S. imperialism completely wrecking these countries. I mean, you have the United Fruit Company basically destroying the land reform movement. It's not subtle. We team up with basically traders in these countries that will do whatever American companies want for their own profit, their own people. And these are the people that we basically maneuver into power. We don't just do it in Central America and Latin America, but that's the place where we have the strongest hand because they're basically right in our backyard. It goes back to the Monroe Doctrine, where we had this idea that this is our backyard and what we say goes here.
Will, are all of these things that happen in those countries, are all of these things due to the United States? There are no bad actors in those countries, as there appear to be in every country around the world, bad actors, including here in the United States, who would like to seize power and hang on to it regardless. That's all because of the U.S.?
Obviously, it's not the United States.
That's all because of the U.S. Okay.
I would say it's a huge part of the dynamic in these countries. I mean, certain countries may not even exist if not for American influence. So it's kind of strange to try to minimize that at all. I mean, it's a massive. You talk about Mexico and how the country has.
Okay, now this, by the way, in fairness, this is not on the conversation on topic about immigration anymore. It is a conversation about the causes and the problems that the U.S. policy causes around the world, that's a conversation I'm very willing to get into on another day. And I'd love to have you on. I'm going to repeat that offer we've made a couple of times. Get your rear end down in here and sit down and chair beside me, or you want to do it by phone, and I'll co-host a part of the show with you. I think you got plenty of issues that need to be addressed. This is probably not the time on this one, so we're going to continue that. Shannon, we're going to come to you in a couple of seconds. I want to remind everybody that this is UTalk on KPFT. We're talking to the people who listen to KPFT. Really unique place. 90.1, Houston, Texas. People listen to us around the world, and they listen to this show, and your voices are the best we can bring them. 713-526-5738. When you hear a little recording, you hit it 2. That's going to put you through to our switchboard. We get you on the air. Shannon, good morning. What's your thoughts on immigration this morning? What's up? What's on your mind?
I wanted to talk about going other countries. I wanted to immigrate to Australia 10 years ago, or what was it, 20? They have a policy where it's a point system. So there's a list of needs in the workforce that they need help. So you get points for that. Let's say they need more nurses, they need carpenters, yada yada yada. So you'll get 10 points for that. If you can speak English, you get 10 points for that. If your spouse can speak English, you get 10 points for that. If you have a college degree, if you have 5 years training, it's like a whole system. You get all these points, and if you make it's 100 points or 110 points or something, then you qualify to immigrate legally. And so if we had a system I don't understand why we don't have something like that here. It's if we need my neighbor, he does stucco. He's when that big caravan they were all talking about coming, he's oh, please let the caravan come because I can't find people that want to work and get up at 5 a.m. and come home at 7 p.m. or 8 p.m. and work hard all day, and it's if we had a system where you posted up this stuff, we need nurses, we need, there's tons of jobs that we need help with.
Yep.
That give these people priority or allow them to join the military. Do have incentives and make it easier, because right now it's so difficult to come and immigrate here. I mean, you have to have $50,000 in the bank. You want to start a business. It's like that in Australia too. If you want to go there, you have $50,000 or $100,000 in the bank, you can get in and you pay a lawyer $5,000 so that wealthy people can come in because they're not going to be, using the system as much, whatever, on paper.
Shannon, by the way, you're to a lot of people, your voice is going to remind listeners of common sense voices from the past, because most of the things you're saying right now are things that guided U.S. immigration policy in the past. Now, one of the things that's changed, of course, is we have a lot of people fleeing totally unlivable conditions. In many cases, they've said, well, screw the border policies in the U.S. We're going to get across there somehow. We're going to get to the U.S. because one of these days, that border is going to be closed in some way. At some point, there's going to be some kind of a political action. Something's going to happen that the semi-openness that's there now is going to be replaced by something. It may be some high wall. It may be much more violent things than just buoys floating in the middle of the Rio Grande and razor wire and so on. These things are always possible because of politics and because of fear and because of, I don't know, at some point, maybe the U.S. does begin to reach a limit in population. Hey, I was in Colorado a few days ago, spent several days up there in the high Rockies trying to relax for a day. And of course, one of the things you appreciate is the wilderness. And you look at the cities growing up there, encroaching into that wilderness and changing it. And it's going to be gone at some point, gone forever. That's not the fault of people immigrating to the United States, but there is a level of population ultimately. The question of whether we intervene in that by blocking people who need to get into this country because they have no other options, how we get them in, what kind of reasonable methods we do to encourage people to get in, and also have room for people who come not for logical reasons, just because they can't live anymore where they're living because their lives are in danger and their families are about to be destroyed and they're fleeing. That's a whole different group. Shannon, you got some really important points there.
Yeah, there's got to be a way of helping to stabilize the Mexico. I mean, it's a beautiful country. especially in the interior part in Tosco and all that, very European. I just wish there was a way. Like we went to Cancun. We went to Cancun for a wedding, and it was like dangerous. Like the cartel, like even in the touristy part of it, where where the ferry goes across to the Isla de Mujeres, it's like that the guy that was working, we ended up having like a 2-hour conversation with him, and he was like, I have to be careful, like people are watching this restaurant right now. You know, it's like he can't, he's a musician and he can't, you know, we were like, yeah, we need to have a community recording studio here. And he's like, oh, they won't let us have that. So
Mexico is not so many steps away from being a narco state. And that's kind of a scary thing. Shannon, thanks for giving us a call this morning.
Yeah, okay.
No, the interesting stuff, by the way. Thanks for contributing that. Mike, good morning. You're on UTalk. What you got to say? You're on the air.
Yeah. Hey, Steve. A few callers back was talking about the political origins of the immigration dilemma, and just, you know, I'm kind of on the conservative side politically, but I like to call out, you know, the Republican Party when it's needed. And I do believe that there needs to be some reform that allows a more orderly way for people to immigrate into the country. And but you just need to look at the United States Chamber of Commerce. They are the number one advocate for more immigration, essentially for jobs. And they've got a current campaign that's nationwide. It's called the Liberty Campaign. You can go to their website. And then you can go to opensecrets.org and see what kind of contributions, the political contributions, the U.S. Chamber of Commerce has been making over the last 10 years or more. And in recent years, recent election cycles, the Chamber is anywhere between 80% and 100% contributions to Republicans. Now, the Liberty Campaign is calling for expanded visas to not only in specified or hard-to-place jobs, what your previous caller was talking about,
right,
but to expand job opportunities for immigrants to a broader section of jobs, and to add more immigrants to the roles of, the paperwork process that's going on now kind of haphazardly at our various borders, including New York. You know, it's a border state and a border city itself. I think it's the second or third largest intaker of immigrants into the United States. Just New York is itself. So they are a major import themselves. So this Liberty Campaign, Steve, they've got a letter that they've written to all of the Congress. It's posted on that Liberty webpage. And all 50 states are represented on this letter. It's a one-page letter with about 10 additional pages that show all the chambers of commerce and business organizations by state.
Now, Mike, I'm going to stop you for a second. We're running out of time on something, but I want to ask you a question. Look, and by the way, we're going to go to Rico in a second. Mike, if so many voices of reason, business people, all sorts of people are saying, we need immigrants. We got to get them in the country. In fact, they're not just saying we need them. It's many people are saying our survival depends on getting a flow of immigrants coming to the United States and handling certain kinds of jobs. But also as our population ages, we got to have new workers available. If that's the case, and many of these sources of voices saying we need immigration, we need immigrants, are making major donations to Republicans, why are Republicans so vigorously opposing immigration on all levels? Nobody's been working hard to let's put a whole new reasonable immigration policy in place. You don't hear that chorus coming from Republicans. What you do hear is, it seems to me, fear mongering from some people, including maybe the governor, including a lot of other people who it seems are just making immigration this work of the devil, and quite literally, therefore, Democrats must be workers working for the devil. Is this just people playing to people's fear? It seems to me that that's what's happening. It's people playing to other people's fear for political advantage. Does it seem to you that it's that way? Is there some ingredient of that going on?
Yes, and I think that's the inner workings of the party, or let's say the business caucus of the party, which I think Governor Abbott and most people that are in elective office are first to serve. That's a placation and a playing of the general, Republican electorate. But under that, or behind that curtain, or under that surface, is the business need to want to employ people to grow and profit from your business endeavors. And so in much ways, that caucus wants laissez-faire. Hey, let's bring him in, and so I can pay him what I want to pay him, whether it's under the table, on top of the table. So just one answer to this, as Governor Abbott sends, immigrants to certain cities, I would take a look at that state by state list with that letter,
right,
and keep the bus going. Send them to those cities that have signed that letter, because those are the chambers, those are the business organizations that are saying we need the workers. And
Mike,
so Governor Abbott and Governor DeSantis essentially are running an underground railroad to help settle.
Oh, Mike, I don't think that's their goal at all. But that's an interesting conversation. But I want to add something. If we were talking, what you're saying would be perfectly in agreement with the chorus of what you heard from a lot of Republican leaders 20 years ago. Of somehow we, the Republican Party, and I'm not a Republican, but we, the Republican Party, have got to become more friendly to immigrants, more friendly to Latinos. That isn't what's happened. It's taken a whole different turn, and that's not where the Republican Party is positioned right now. Mike, thanks for giving us a quick call. Rico, I want to go. By the way, my thanks, this morning for Jack. Amanda Johnston is ill this morning. Jack, you've been standing in, doing a great job this morning, handling the incoming calls. Rico, you've been really chomping at the bit in there to say something. What's your input on this? Go ahead, my friend. This is our board up, Rico, and go ahead, my friend.
Morning, everyone. Couple callers kind of reminded me of a story I heard a couple of years back when I was still in college. And I had these friends. One was Colombian, the other was Pakistani, and they were telling me how they were doing a fundraising event for their coding club. And they told me that some people had walked by and made some racist remarks toward them about how they were taking our jobs, quote unquote. And they basically said, well, why don't you do it? Why don't you take the classes? Why don't you learn, and you can take these coding jobs, these web developer jobs, and that there aren't people who are doing it. And a lot of people aren't doing it. And if it was easy, or if everyone could do it, they would be doing it. And the other story was basically I knew someone who had an immigrant father who came down and worked his way up in the hospitality industry. And now he gets calls from all over the country to beg this man to work for them. And so, I think a lot of times we think some immigrants are, mowing the yards or, constructing things, but it goes way above that and in every industry. And so that's something to remember when we think about immigration policies.
Okay. Thank you, my friend. Thanks for the input. By the way, Berto, you may remember that I said something to you one day a long time ago that one of my college roommates was a Panamanian, and another one of my college roommates was a Zonian. So we had interesting late night political conversations. That's somebody who lived in the Panama Canal Zone while it was still U.S., we thought, property, or at least acted like it was, right? Hey, Berto, picking it up, my friend.
Yeah, it actually, you're right. The Canal Zone had its own government. We had a house in the Canal Zone and a house in the Republic because, again, if you worked for the Canal Zone at a certain level, you had to have a house in the Canal Zone. So my family particularly had one in a place called Sabanitas, which was in the city. And I mean, in Panama proper, and then one in the zone that the government gives you when you live there, But anyhow, I'm glad that Rico said what he said, because first of all, the theories that immigrants are these, like what Barry called us, right? The pretty much the scum of the earth, or the degenerate, that sort of a thing.
Yes, that definitely describes you. Yeah,
I think it's comical because as a land of immigrants, the immigrants that are coming over today are the ones that have done the least damage to this country proper. And it's amazing that someone would have the nerve to say that. And I'm glad of the way that you handle in an unbiased manner the conversation that allows for different points of view to come over that in effect makes a silly point looks exactly how it needs.
By the way, which you and I both grant, I think, because we've listened to Barry in the past, and Barry oftentimes says sensitive, powerful things. I think he also trolls us a little bit sometimes. I think sometimes Barry says things with his tongue stuck real strongly in his cheek and say, I'm going to say something really outrageous and see how it plays. And it's probably related to how he feels. But the point is sometimes he almost... Sometimes when I see Barry's name coming up, I know he's going to say something that a lot of people feel that I don't like that they feel.
Mm-hmm.
And he says something that other people are sometimes a little too careful or a little too afraid to say. Now, let's move on for a second here. We're going to get back to reminding people again, because we're in the final moments now, basically less than the last 5 minutes of UTalk. If you got something important to say, this is the moment to do it. John Garcia, I'm going to put you on the air. What's on your mind, my friend?
Good morning, Steve. Good morning, Egberto. Well, I just wanted to resonate with what the previous caller was saying about immigrants, that you guys can, research the exact number, but I know that more than 50% of the new small businesses are started by immigrants nowadays. So it is not only that we immigrants are, in the backyard landscaping or construction. There is people coming with every type of preparation and capacities.
Would you repeat that statistic for a minute? What percentage of new small businesses are started by immigrants? You gave a number.
Yeah, over 50%, but I don't have in front of me.
No, that's okay, buddy. I believe that's very possible. Keep going, my friend. This is interesting. Keep going.
Yeah, and on the other side, what's the cost of immigration? So many of us come here because we don't have any option in our countries, and that's because many of those countries have been destroyed by different reasons, by not like drug dealing or very tyrannies or strong governments that take over and convert in dictatorships. So I just want to point out that the role of the United States in South America and Central America has not been only bad. There's a stereotype that says that United States get involved in trying to invade countries or something. The most prosperous stages in the life of Venezuela were when we were in good relationship with the U.S. companies and we developed an economy based on cooperation.
John, I'm going to stop you for a second.
Investment. So it's not.
I'm going to stop you for a second for a reason, not because what you're saying is not useful. It really is, but because we're getting into the last minute and a half or so. I'm going to give one more person a chance to say something. Bob, okay. You've been very patiently waiting, and Bob, you're on the air for a second. We can make sure we're on. Bob, you're on, buddy. You got about 1 minute. Go ahead. Bob, are you there? You are not there. Let's go to Pamela. Pamela, good morning. You are on UTalk. What you got to say? You got about 1 minute. Go ahead.
Good morning. I blame the GOP, the Republicans,
right?
The DNC, the Democratic Party, the congressmen, the senators. Nobody has fought for a comprehensive immigration plan. And until that happens, we have no business, including in New York, to be discussing or throwing stones at other people.
Yep. We kind of invited chaos, and now we're using it. I think sometimes a lot of people are using the chaos, kind of like, "Wow, great! We got a great issue, another one to drive people apart with, get them all upset and angry with each other."
We know that the Republicans don't care; they want the slaves out here working for them. But
okay.
The point being, the Democrats haven't done anything either.
Pamela, thanks for speaking.
Anyway,
thanks for speaking. You too. Thanks for speaking the truth, as a matter of fact. Not a bad place to end, as a matter of fact, on today's UTalk. It's Monday morning. We'll be back tomorrow. Some things related to the Houston Independent School District. You're really going to like tomorrow's show. We'll see you then. That's it. I'm Steve Hunter. This is UTalk. Reminder again, please go out, make a difference today with your life. Find somebody, do something magical for them, make their life better. You know you can. If you're here on UTalk, if you're listening to KPFT, I know where your heart is. So go do something great. Do something great for yourself today. We'll see you 23 hours from right now on 90.1 KPFT for tomorrow's UTalk. That's it. I'm Steve Hunter.